Hello and very warm welcome to all of you in this edition of Public Forum. I'm Anurag Punetha with you. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met yesterday in Moscow. This meeting has happened at very crucial time when a lot of eyes were on the outcome of this meeting. Both sides have agreed on 5 points to guide their approach to the situation on the LAC, including the disengagement of troops and easing of tensions. So what does it mean? Can we say that this is a breakthrough, or is it the same old things and outcome, especially from the China side? We are going to discuss all these things in this edition of Public Forum. To discuss further, two experts have joined me. Former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar has joined me. Very warm welcome to the show, Ashok ji. My second guest is Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, international affairs expert. Very warm welcome in the show as well, Dr. Chaulia. And Dr. Chaulia, your take on, are you hopeful? The outcome, the 5-point consensus. And in fact, interestingly, Chinese foreign minister, though, wants bilateral ties to continue on a parallel track. When the tension is going on. But when Jaishankar asked him about the immense build-up of the PLA troops in Ladakh, he had no answer.
Yeah, Anurag, the script of this 5-point consensus is almost identical to what our NSA, Mr. Ajit Doval and Wang Yi had discussed in early July, which Ambassador was just referring to. And we do know that after that 2-hour conversation between Mr. Doval and Wang Yi, the Chinese did withdraw from Galwan. So they went back about 1.5 to 2 kilometers, and for now we are not disputing that point anymore because they have stepped back. So to that extent, whenever these high-level engagements happen, they are a very hierarchical, polity, the Chinese side. So whenever they say top leaders' guidance is necessary, all this refers to the overall supremacy of the Communist Party over the PLA military. So there is no question that this is now, the strings are in the hands of the top leadership. And Wang Yi is not only foreign minister, but also state councillor, which is a very high position in the Communist Party hierarchy. So I think we can expect some disengagement. My feeling is because, one of the points was that both sides should maintain proper distance. And, the point is that since our military preempted them and proactively took over some of the vantage points in the southern bank of Pangong. So they are at a disadvantage now. And we are looking down upon them geographically from the heights. And they are trying to dislodge us from there and have come as close as 200 meters, which is, not just within firing range, but can cause casualties, even if there is a minimum. So it is not stable. And I think they do realize that India is now very determinedly pushing back. So I think there is some pressure they are feeling now, because earlier, until August, they thought that they had the upper hand. They had occupied some parts of northern bank of Pangong, and they were, saber rattling all the time. But interestingly, so I'm hopeful that the pressure plus this high level involvement now will help to at least disengage some of the points. But there are so many points, Anurag. The difference between, let's say, Doklam crisis of 2017 or Daulat Beg Goldie 2013 and today is, at that time, there was just one sector, subsector where there was this eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation. Now there are like 6-7 areas which are still contested, Pangong So, and then Gogra, Hot Springs, the Chushul. So in that sense, I think this is going to be a longer drawn-out crisis. The dialogue is good, but and I expect some disengagement to happen as a result of the pressure that we are putting on them. And the pressure not only is at LAC, also Anurag. Our audience should know India is engaging a lot of proactive diplomatic maneuvers. We have recently done a new trilateral India-France-Australia. I had not heard of that combination before for Indo-Pacific. We are doing more military interoperability with Japan now. That's the latest agreement. The US 2+2 and the strategic dialogue and military interoperability is increasing. US pressure on China on the other side, towards the Taiwan Straits and towards the eastern seaboard. Traditionally, historically, China's main threat they perceived came from the US in the Pacific. So they cannot have multiple fronts like this. So, and the winter is coming. So although they are doing some grandstanding and psyops, they are continuing to put out, even after EAM's meeting, Anurag, they are continuing to dish out the propaganda saying our soldiers are ready for a long winter. We are, we've got hot meals up there, and the Indians are going to freeze. Indians are going to get COVID, and our soldiers will be, standing there resolutely, and we are prepared for this face-off. But I don't think so. I don't think they have the staying power. I think Modi administration has combined, diplomatic forthrightness with a strong military pushback, and this kind of usage of Russia creatively to coax the Chinese to also back down, that we are seeing in Shanghai Cooperation Organization or RIC formats or BRICS format. All these, I think, are helpful for us to ultimately restore the status quo ante of April-May, which is our real goal. And I'm hopeful that the Chinese will eventually de-escalate. Right now, I think they're just trying to prove that they are superior, and they have this mentality of superiority complex as communists. But I think we are teaching them a lesson in our own way, and gradually they will be compelled to go back.
Dr. Chaulia, explain me. I'm still asking since last so many weeks to all the experts that reason of China's this aggressive approach. They are continuing to nibble land from other countries. They have opened the front with India, Bhutan, from Taiwan. You talked about this quadrilateral security dialogue that is taking place, that is the Squad. Why China is doing it? Because China's strength lies in economy, in business, in transactionality. And China's image post-COVID has gone down very low. So why Chinese are doing it? They are risking everything.
Anurag, there are two instances where the Chinese have become so-called over-assertive or overconfident and aggressive. One was after the 2008 global economic crisis. This even before Xi Jinping came to power. And Hu Jintao was still there. And at that time also, it began to be noticed in the Southeast Asian theater that China began to be, far more pushy and bullying than it was before. Why was that? That is because they perceived that the US was weak, and they thought that the US cannot stop them because the US was grappling with the worst financial crisis, the economic depression since 1930s. And again, this year, why have they upped the ante against everybody? You mentioned almost all the neighbors in Indo-Pacific are being affected by this, expansionism. Why is that? That's because, again, they believe that the US is down and does not have the capacity to counter them and push them back, because US is, completely drowned in coronavirus and domestic strife, and is going through a very tumultuous presidential election. I think that factor, they always evaluate in terms of global competition. Who is the main opponent? For them, India is not the main opponent. For them, it's always the US. And they're thinking that right now the US is on its heels. It cannot challenge them. But what has happened is they miscalculated. They didn't realize Australia will stand up to them. They didn't realize India is going to stand up to them. They didn't realize that Japan will shift its foreign investments away from mainland China. They didn't realize that Trump administration will take such a belligerent approach as the election was coming forward. So I think some of their forward posture or assertive behavior is linked to their reading of the global situation. They feel that there are no obstacles to the expansionism. So in that sense, China is a very rational actor. If we show them the costs, if we put up the obstacles, then they are forced to go back. That's what India is doing. Anurag, since the Galwan clash has happened, Vietnam, Philippines, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, all of them are looking up to India. And many of them are asking us privately, saying, what is India going to do? How, they're fascinated by the fact that we brought upon casualties on the Chinese, on Galwan, of course, at a high cost to our own troops. We, sacrificed our blood, but the Chinese lost forces, and the US intelligence says up to 35 of them, more than what we lost. So that, and now the way we have proactively, taken over some positions is fascinating all these countries, because they realize that they wanted somebody to stand up and show the way. And now we have become an example. That's why more of them want a deepening strategic partnership with us, because they realize that India is spunky. India is not a pushover. And the Chinese thought that because the US is preoccupied with Corona and down, and we have this big opportunity space to expand. So I think that is a big miscalculation. They have managed to antagonize the whole world against them. And I think slowly that pushback from the whole world together in some forms of coalitions will put them back in their place. And one must expect that it's not an instantaneous process, because the Chinese at the end of the day are, grandstanding and full of propaganda. The communist mindset is we always win. We are always ahead of others and nobody can beat us. They are saying, the Global Times editor is claiming openly on Twitter that, the Indian army will be utterly defeated. Don't even
that's
attempt
right. That's right.
or try to, heckle us. Or
Not only
provoke
this,
us.
not
So
only
this
this, but in fact the
mindset has
Chinese
to be,
ambassador.
ultimately tamed down, and we
Yeah.
are going to tame it.
Yeah, not only this, but all the time, most of the Chinese diplomats are also saying that the ball is in India's court. But final and very quick comment from you. Do we have other options except military level talks and this diplomatic channel? I mean, India have other options to leverage to somehow push China to mend its ways or not? Dr. Chaulia, but very, very quick comment, because time is not allowing me to
Yeah,
go.
Anurag, the one China principle that they insist on all the interlocutors, we have not been validating that for long. We have not been publicly proclaiming it.
Yeah.
Taiwan is very eager to enhance cooperation with us. This is the right time. If the Chinese are saying so-called Arunachal Pradesh, we should challenge the idea that Taiwan is an integral part of China. And, we should take a more strident line if necessary. If they are showing this intransigence and if this standoff continues for months or years, we have to reevaluate and rethink about how to punch back in the language that the Chinese understand. So yes, Tibet, Special Frontier Force, Taiwan, these are the areas where, we need to deepen our engagement to show that we are not going to be cowed down, and we know how to do tit for tat, not just at LAC, but across all the domains of economy, military and politics.
Yeah, this approach of tit for tat, and probably that this message that India is not going to cow down is also being sent, because this standoff along the line of actual control has somehow spurred India's efforts to forge greater cooperation on security issues, connectivity and trade with other countries that are equally concerned about China's aggressive actions across the region, while a lot of attention has also been focused on the response of this squad, which Dr. Chaulia also talked about. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, and thank you very much, Dr. Chaulia, for joining me and talking to us.
Thank you.
That's all we have in this edition of Public Forum. Thank you very much for watching.